Hello, hello. Tell you what, let me hang up with you and call you back. Oh boy, it's going to be one of those nights, folks. This time it's not the Skype thing going wacko. So let's get him back on here.
This person cannot be reached at the moment.
Yeah, well,
Please leave a message after the tone. After you leave a message, you can modify it by pressing pound.
I can't even shut that lady up. I'll be down. There we go. All right. I got to call him. He can't call me because I have to have control of this call. So let's try it again. He was trying to call me back.
This person cannot be...
Oh, damn it. Let's try it again. He keeps trying to call me back. If you're listening there, Wolfgang, don't call me. I will call you. That's how I got to do it here. There he is. I think we got him back.
Please leave a message after...
This is not looking good, folks. He's calling me again. I know. I've got to call you. I might as well wait a minute and then try to bring him on. We're going to play phone footsie here for a minute, folks, so hang in there. Oh, dear. Let me just get rid of that. And start over. All right, let's try again.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Come on.
You're not hearing me.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. So the fun begins. I don't know where I was cut off, but I'm not surprised.
Well, it was interesting. Yeah, but I could hear you. You couldn't hear me. Got cut off right about where I was answering you, and you had mentioned why.
Your message has reached the maximum duration allowed. To re-record, press 1.
I'm sorry,
To
say
listen
again. You're breaking up.
Press 2.
Yeah.
To cancel your message,
What the
press 4.
hell
To
is
confirm,
that?
press pound.
I don't know what that is.
To re-record, press 1.
I can hear you loud
to listen
and clear,
again,
Michael.
Press 2. To cancel your message, press 4. To confirm,
Go ahead.
press
Yeah,
pound.
hold on. I'm trying to get rid of this
Your
nutcase
message
lady
has
who
reached the
won't go
maximum
away.
duration allowed. To re-record,
Okay, no
press
problem.
1. Press 1. To listen again, press
Oh.
2. Press 2. To cancel your message, press 4.
Where
to
the
confirm, press
freak is
pound.
that coming from? Folks, you hearing this? I mean, are you kidding me? Come on. I mean, get real. In the... Nah, she's still talking. And I don't see her. She's not here on my board. You got to be kidding me.
To re-record, press 1. To listen again, press 2. To cancel your message,
Holy
press 4.
shit.
To confirm, press
So will she just give up at some point or what? She done? You done? AI? You finished there? All right. Maybe we could get on with the show. You know, it's bad enough it's hot here tonight. And then I've got to deal with AI interrupting my show. Oh, I know. Believe me, I know whose end it's from. It's just, I couldn't. He's not on here with me, though. I had to hang up with him, and she was still going. I don't know where she came from. But let's try this again. Holy smokes.
Okay, I'm back. Hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I'm so sorry about that.
No, it's...
I will... Go ahead.
I was going to say, no, it's okay. I think what happened was I was trying to call you back, and for some reason it went to your voicemail, and it wouldn't leave. And it wasn't showing on my screen, so I couldn't stop it. So she just... Anyways, we're good, and I totally understand why you keep your name under wraps, because it could affect your job. So thank you for being here.
Yes. And one other data point, if I may, and I'll interject this,
Sure.
is that I'll just say it. More so a few years ago, but I've had my computer hacked not once but 5 times. My mailbox has been blue dotted, if anybody knows what that is, related to FEMA camps, blue dot, yellow dot, red dot. So I've kept a very low profile for several years regarding the subject matter because now, again, to repeat myself, it is more open source. I don't feel so critical about not talking about it in the public domain, but But certainly, I wouldn't be surprised if there is a three-letter agency messing with us. That's all I can tell you.
I won't argue with that. I mean, that was really strange. I mean, there was nothing for me. There was no way for me to hang up on that AI bot lady. I mean, she just kept going. Boy, she didn't want to leave. She wanted to be a part of the show tonight.
Well, anyway, I'll cut to the quick and I'll continue with this information.
Okay.
In about 2004, very specifically, I went to the UFO Congress in Tucson, Arizona, whereupon I attended a symposium with a woman named Miriam Delicato, who wrote a book called Alien Blue Star Prophecy, Red Kachina, Blue Kachina. Now, this book that she wrote, and she claimed, past tense, that from 1988 until 1992, she was brought aboard a Draco reptilian craft, shown a holographic flat-screen TV 6 times over that time frame when she was taken aboard the craft. She wasn't abducted. She went willingly. She's essentially a housekeeper from BC, Canada, and she was directed by these beings to write this book. And she was told by them telepathically, you need to write this book. You need to get the word out about what's coming. And it really is basically about the Nibiru exoplanet system that we're discussing tonight. And further, what I found very interesting was after I met her at this UFO symposium, we had sort of a ongoing telephone conversation for about half a year. But then that's when things got very weird for me. My phone was getting tapped because what I had in common with her, and I had some other things that I don't want to discuss happen to me, where I had aircraft fly over our house, hit us with ground-penetrating radar, which consequently gave my dog permanent epilepsy, things like that. Not good things. But my point is, with all of this, is that, I had some data, much like William Tompkins, much like John Titor, that I shared with her, saying, hey, that's really interesting, because I've been told about the Draco reptilians and how they work directly with us, and they do a technology transfer, and they've given us craft to fly. A good example of this is they throw it right in your face. The craft look like exactly what you see in the last Star Wars movie. Not this one. I haven't seen the last movie, but it's a triangle craft. Looks like an extended version of the TR-3B, the Lockheed Martin device. But this is really, and again, Randy Kramer describes these same craft. So as verification, that was verification for me. Although I kind of separated from her after about 1.5 years because things for me back in 2005 and subsequent were becoming a little dicey and a little strange. Again, with the telephone and some other weird things that were going on. So I basically separated myself. Now, as we speak, she has been working with the Hopi Indians up in the Four Corners area, because supposedly the Four Corners area is one of many designated safe zones, quote unquote, that she writes about in her book. And I would recommend all of your very awake and aware listeners, I'm not giving shameless plugs here, but throughout the show,
sure,
I'm going to share some YouTube channels with you that I think people should go, because as my father would say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And I want people to become informed by looking at this data and deciding for themselves. That's all. Continue.
All right. And you mentioned pictures. Now, are there photos of this? I mean, is it possible to get photos of this object?
Of course. And what I can tell you from my personal research is that this system, which consists of 2 gas planets, Nemesis, as it's known, which is a larger brown dwarf star, about 8 times larger than the size of Earth, which has a very large gravity well in the middle of it. And then we have Woodworm, or Nibiru, which the Anunnaki live on. That's also involved. So you have 4 planets there, and then you have a 5th smaller planet, gas planet, 3 gas planets, the 2 brown dwarfs in the system, and then you have a total of 6 moons. So you have a total of 12-planet exoplanet system. Now, I postulate, and I say, from the photographic evidence that I've researched as of late, and we'll get into this discussion and the information as time goes on here. But in a nutshell, this planetary system right now, as we speak, is outside of Saturn, and outside of Mars and inside of Saturn, on a parallel orbit, if you will, approximately 30 degrees off from us, in our elliptical plane. The best photographic evidence that I would direct people to, and I'm going to be giving these YouTube channels for people to look at them themselves, would be simply a channel called Niburu News. Niburu News.
I'm gonna write these down too.
I would strongly recommend that, again, to your kind audience here, please don't look at one video or two. Take some time and go back 15, 20 videos. And you're going to have to spend a couple hours doing some data point research on your own. But there is very clear evidence, and that evidence specifically is coming from, right now the best evidence in the last month has been coming out of Bondi Beach in Australia, where there hasn't been extreme geoengineering going on to cover these objects up. And you can clearly see these are not artifacts of light. These are not sun dogs. This is a fixed infrared and high definition beach cam that is catching during sunset a large gas planet, probably 8 times larger than the size of the sun. And so you can go back and look at those videos. Those videos are less than 3 or 4 weeks old. The other great source, interestingly, are the FAA cams coming out of Alaska. And I can tell you very matter-of-factly, the FAA does not obfuscate things on their cameras, because people like myself have to use those cameras to check weather at a given destination airport where they're located. So they're not going to be obfuscating objects. And that is a fantastic source. And again, this is also covered in Niburu News on their particular YouTube channel.
Okay.
Continue.
All right. And so tell me about, I mean, okay, so if I was to get, I've had people tell me that when the sun's just setting or when it's just rising, that if you have special kind of lenses or what have you, you can go out, and if you could block the brightness from the sun, you could actually see this thing out there. Is that true? Is that accurate?
Absolutely. That is 100% true. And when I was flying past tense for an operator on the East Coast, which will remain nameless, I was flying 737-800 series aircraft, and I was going specifically in the morning from Eastern Seaboard. This is back in 2015, in the winter of 2015, so we're talking about 2 years ago, taking off from Pittsburgh Airport, Washington National, going down to the Caribbean. The best time to see this is, and I was seeing this, I saw this object, and it appeared as a fainter reddish object at the 10 o'clock position during sunrise up until the first 8 to 10 degrees above the horizon. This is where you get atmospheric, you can say distortion or compression, okay? But what that means simply is, because you're compressing the atmosphere, you can see things if they're slightly in the infrared spectrum. It is possible. But then as it gets higher and higher on the elliptic and comes about 8 to 10 degrees off the horizontal line during sunset and sunrise, then you're getting a thinner atmosphere from your ground perspective, and you're going to lose the object. But I can tell you as a fact, I have seen this object not once, but a total of 6 times during 2015, during takeoff, at sunrise, under those exact conditions.
So then if I were to get a pair of glasses that you would use to, say, see an eclipse, so you could look directly at the sun, would something like that work?
Well, here's the problem, and I know this is going to sound crazy, but anybody who's over 40 years old will understand this. And when you walked out, for example, and you looked at the sun, I mean, not directly like Kung Fu Master, where you lose your eyeballs. When you unlike Kung Fu Master, who did this by design, you know this as well as I do, Michael. I think you're a little bit younger than me, but I'm a middle-aged guy. But you would see an orangey, yellowish ball. And I challenge you, when you go and look at the sun today, it's an iridescent white. Okay, why is that? Well, I'll cut right to the bottom line. It's because it is being obfuscated by design in geosynchronous orbit by a Caltech JPL-designed 6-sided hexagonal in geosynchronous orbit space, 22,600 miles up. And I proved this to you by, I'm going to give the next YouTube usernames out. Go look at Jeff Space P. Jeff P. I didn't believe this myself, but here's a couple of examples of what I'm talking about. First of all, and this is NASA fact, this is a fact from Never a Straight Answer NASA, that the sun has lost 32% of its luminosity in the last 15 years. Okay, so if it's not being geoengineered and you can see the sun during sunrise or sunset, it has a very, very orangish color now. Not that yellowish color that it had 20 years ago. And we'll get into this later, but the reason for that is because it's been burning off excess hydrogen, okay, through something called a Birkeland current, which is something that Nikola Tesla discovered in 1897. And it's basically a spiraling, and again, I'm not an astrophysicist, but I'm just giving you my layman breakdown of this from the data point research I've done. It's like a spiraling lightning bolt, and it will connect 2 planetoids together, and it will suck off energy from planetoid A or B. And right now, this is why the sun is, at a 32% lesser luminosity than it was 10 to 15 years ago, because the two brown dwarfs that are coming in have siphoned off through these Birkeland currents as this thing has come up through the ecliptic from the south underneath Antarctica. Another reason why we have massive melting in Antarctica, okay, of all the ice, because you have literally about a 700% increase of the gamma ray radiation hitting the Earth. And this is exponentially melting the ice quicker in that region of the Earth. But continuing and getting back to your question, if you go to Jeff Space P, again, I suggest this to your very intelligent audience. Please look at several of the videos. This is called a Fresnel lens. And what it is the same technology that's been used for over 100 years in a lighthouse. And it's a concentric circled lens. And I'll prove this to you. How am I going to prove it? Why is it that under certain conditions, when you or I as ground observers are looking outside and you look up at the sun and it's being geoengineered, and you've got this the CIA operated out of U.S. Air Force Base 747-400 all-white aircraft going up there and dumping their chemical crap, and you look up at the sun, and first of all, if you take a photo of it, you see a little black dot in the middle of the sun. Well, that is exactly what I'm describing here. That's number one. There's about 7 things I'll go down. Number 2, when you take a picture of the sun, again, you see this rose petal effect in any camera now. That never existed before, if you go back pre-2008, before these sun filters / sun generators were put up there. There's a minimum of 2 of them up there right now. I think there's probably 3 of them. But from the video evidence that I've analyzed, I see 2 so far. That's number 3. Number 4, okay, there is a very good video on Niburu News. It's probably about a month old. And these are being operated at the International Space Station. They are using, in geosynchronous orbit, this is really what they're doing up there. This is their main focus. They're using a laser array, 2 of them that I could see, pointing them at these dishes with a very powerful laser to energize these things to create this sun effect. And if you really look deep into the data, okay, what's going on is that when you have a planet or planets, singular plural, going behind or in front of the sun, they can fire this thing up and obfuscate, hide the planets. Now, when do you know it's on? It's very simple. And this is the telltale sign. This is the final point I'll mention about this. And that is, you know when this thing is on because, and I'm sure you've seen this, you'll see a concentric perfect circle rainbow that is a perfect circle like a big donut covering about 1/3 of the sky. And I've got video of this myself driving to Las Vegas.
I've seen that. I've seen that on the sun and the moon. I've seen that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, then you know what I'm talking about. It's because there is a artificial. And this is, and ladies and gentlemen, why is it up there? Why? Why do they have this thing in front of the sun? Why are they blocking the sun? Because they want to obfuscate. They want to hide. Not with you, not with your good listeners, but with the sheeple. They do not want the sheeple to look up when they're not geoengineering. And remember this: when do these geoengineering fools take off? Notice, if you recall, because I look at the sky every day as part of my job role. They had the entire month of August off. They had 6 weeks off, and it's interesting out here in California where I live. We had beautiful clear skies for 6 weeks, all through August, and then the first 2 weeks of September. And then about the middle of September, like clockwork, the geoengineering started back up. Same thing with Thanksgiving. We had beautiful skies for about 3 or 4 days prior to Thanksgiving because they had 4 days off. It's almost stupid. You can predict their schedule by virtue of when it's clear and when it's not clear.
See, now with these glasses I'm talking about, though, they're kind of, I mean, it would be equivalent to a welder's mask, I guess, but just a little better. And when I look at the sun through these, I mean, the sun looks like, it actually looks like the moon, and it's just different color. But you could see like the solar flaring stuff, kicking up on it and all that. So I would assume that if there's something even closely as bright anywhere near it, then you might have a good chance of seeing it.
The fundamental problem is that both Nemesis and Nibiru are in the infrared spectrum. This is basic physics, astrophysics 101 that everybody should know. You can buy an infrared lens, but you have to special order it. I think you can special order them out of Japan. But if I recall correctly, George W. Bush banned these back in 2005, 2006, before Obama came in office. And this was a way of shunting the technology. I think it was another lead-in, quite possibly, of not wanting people to go out and buy this off the shelf to readily go out and view this. Because if you have an infrared lens, definitely see what you're talking about.
I see. Now you're saying that they're putting something up there to kind of like block the sun or distort the sun, but you're not saying that there's a fake sun. Now, some people are asking that. I mean,
No. We have a real sun, but what you have is a array, a 3-lens array. And again, if you go to Jeff P. and spend about an hour looking at these videos, you'll become a believer like me. You're going to be able to look at this if you have half a brain and a little bit of technical know-how, and just look at the photographic evidence. It's overwhelming.
Oh,
most important. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm definitely going to look, and I also wanted to point out one reason I take even a newfound interest in this topic is because I keep seeing things that are coming out in the news, like a story I had seen at NASA had put out that said that there are 2 stars were going to collide in the distant space, and that at some point in 2000, I don't know if they said 25 or 2020, we're going to see it's going to be the brightest thing we see in a part of the sky that we never see anything in. They said that and it'll last for 2 years before the light dissipates. And I'm thinking, boy, if that's not getting you prepared for something.
As you know, 2 days ago, there was a bus-size, 80-meter long, 10-meter wide, 20-meter square, 10 by 20 by 80-meter rock that flew by us. 1 AU is the distance between the Earth and the Sun. That's 97 million miles. This was 3/4 of an AU from us, which is pretty close. That's outside the moon, but inside the sun. And NASA didn't even catch it. They caught it after it was flying by us. And again, I'm going to throw out one more name for you: R. Wayne Steiger. R. Wayne Steiger. There is a woman who has a PhD in theoretical physics, identical to what Einstein had. Einstein wasn't a astrophysicist; he was a theoretical physicist. And this woman has published a number of white papers on the brown dwarf system. And if you're technically minded again, she really breaks down specifically what's going on, where this exoplanet system, which I'm in 100% agreement with, is in our inner solar system right now. And my point is that R. Wayne Steiger, he's got some great white paper review videos of this PhD astrophysicist who's breaking down exactly what you're discussing.
Okay. So when are you anticipating? I mean, there's so much has come out about Planet X for years now, and that's why people, when they hear about it, they kind of shrug their shoulders and say, "Oh, here we go again." But
that's the problem. Look at the brainwash. Look at the normacy bias, the cognitive dissonance, the Stockholm syndrome, the arrested development of the reality that we live in. First of all, you have to write off 75% of the sheeple as such. You're never going to get the message through them, because when I go to Walmart, there's the baseline. Walk through Walmart, I feel like I'm in The Walking Dead.
Oh, my God. I'm with you there, buddy. I'm with you there. I say that all the time. You want to get an idea of what it'd be like during the apocalypse, go to Walmart on Black Friday.
It's very sad. It's very, very sad what I see. We live in an inverted reality. These are the facts. This is a very sophisticated government psyop, a disinformation psyop, no different than this fake racism psyop that they've been trying to pull off with analogous to Black Lives Matter. You and I know. I had one of my best friends in elementary school was a black kid who was bussed in from across town. He and I were in band together. He played the tenor saxophone. I played the trombone for 6 years, and he was a black kid with disabilities. The poor kid wore real thick glasses, was almost blind. But he and I were buddies for years, and I never thought twice about that. And now all of a sudden everything is polarized, and Black Lives Matter, not all lives, and we see all this garbage related to this subject matter. So again, it's no different from these same corrupted 3-letter agencies doing the same thing with Niburu. They want to make it a worn-out shoe where, oh, this is fake, but that ain't the case. Okay, I'm telling you, the proof is in the pudding, for lack of a better cliche. And I really want to emphasize that I've spent many years on YouTube, and I have a very discernible way of vetting the crap, vetting the CGI. Because keep in mind, as a trained pilot, what really got me into this in part was looking at some of the UFO videos, and I was pretty readily able to identify, oh, that's CGI, that's a military craft, that's a bona fide UFO, and I've been doing this for years. And I can tell you, when it comes to this sun filter / artificial sun system that's in place, it's 100% real, and don't ignore the facts, okay, ladies and gentlemen. Every sunset and every sunrise, we have an iridescent iron oxide sunset now. That's not normal. Number two, when you look at the sun, once again, it's an iridescent bright white. That's not normal, okay? I'll even go so far to give you this information, and your kind viewers can go look this up.
Yeah,
I believe personally.
lay it all on us. I say lay it all on us.
Okay, here. Before I want to give you one factoid point that I discovered myself. Please, I want everybody right now to go to Wikipedia before it gets erased, because it's the first time I'm going to say this. Nobody would believe me, because, again, when I talk to sheeple, what do they say? Oh, I don't believe that.
They say bad.
That's conspiracy, you know? I mean, I hear it like a broken, it's conspiracy. That's forbidden knowledge. I don't believe it. Or whatever. You know, it's the modus operandi now. But we are, your audience is valuable. The people that are listening to alternative radio, which represent about 3 to 5% of the population, God bless. You're going to hear the message, and you're going to know that it's real, because you're going to be at least open-minded enough to go out and analyze the data on your own, because you're intelligent enough to do so. You're not trolling in Walmart drooling, okay? So that's all. But anyway, here's my point. Go to Wikipedia. Now, I'm on the 38th parallel here, unfortunately living below the West Coast version of the blue pill matrix called Agenda 21, Agenda 30, San Francisco. You know, it's not my favorite place to live, but I live here because I have a job here and because I have a family, extended family here. But here's my point. Go look up, okay? Go look up two items here. Number one, December 22nd was the shortest day of the year, correct? Correct. That's the winter solstice, okay? The total daylight, according to Wikipedia, on the 38th parallel in Los Angeles, they don't have San Francisco. Well, that's probably on the 37th parallel. It's close enough, 500 miles south. You're looking at total daylight based on 2015 numbers, because they didn't have 2016. I stand corrected on that. Was 9 hours and 56 minutes. Okay, that was total daylight on
winter solstice,
December 22nd, 2015. Now, fast forward. I have an app in my phone that tells me if the moon is waning, if it's waxing, the total daylight. And it just so happened back on December 22nd, I looked at the total daylight. And I thought, wow, 9 hours, 37 minutes. So then I went on Wikipedia subsequent and saw 9 hours, 56 minutes. Okay, so in 2 years, how the hell did we lose 18 minutes? That's impossible. Okay, I tell you what's happened. The moon is tilted. These objects have tilted all of the objects, including our Earth, and this is why we have this wacky weather, and I'll get to my second point describing why. And the fact of the matter is, okay, the reason is because, again, if you go to Wikipedia, and when I was in 9th grade science class, they said that the Earth is tilted 24 degrees. Well, now when you go to Wikipedia, it says, well, it's tilted between 21 and 24 degrees. Well, make up your mind, Wikipedia. Is it 21 or is it 24? I digress. I think it's closer to 18 degrees. Okay? I think we've moved from previously 24 degrees to 18 degrees. Why do I say this? For two reasons. Number one, not only because we've lost 18 minutes on the shortest day of the year, and again, go look at Wikipedia and look at today or this year's 2016 shortest day numbers, and then compare it. And there's a spread of 18 minutes, at least where I lived. It was strange. But the other thing that I find very odd, okay, and this is based on my personal experience being a pilot for several decades, is simply this, okay? For the first time ever, and this happened last year, you had the northern jet stream join and cross over the equator and join the southern jet stream in Africa. That's never happened, okay? What would cause that? Well, I think if we had Earth tilt, meaning that basically our planet has tilted to the north 3 or 4 or 5 degrees. The other thing that is very odd is that traditionally speaking, you would have the jet stream during the wintertime get lower, and the jet stream varied past tense between 75 knots to, everything's in knots when you fly, to approximately 180 knots. You know, convert that by 1.23, maybe 210 miles an hour. But in the wintertime, it would terminate the bottom of the jet stream typically around the California-Oregon border. That would be the bottom end of it now. This entire year, the bottom of that jet stream is now tipping down into Baja California. Once again, what would cause that? Well, if the Earth is tilted up an additional 5 degrees, that certainly would cause it. And it certainly very simply would explain why we have the weather that we're having right now. When I look out at the trees that are still in a fall transition, the leaves haven't fallen off yet, and this is This is almost the middle of January?
Well,
this should have happened 3 months ago.
and I could tell you this, I noticed that there's confusion with some of the plant life on my property. Trees that, they don't know if it's winter or if it's summer. I mean, the leaves are still on, and normally they're not.
Exactly.
Yeah, but then there's other trees that are totally bald, but usually, I know what's what here, and I'm seeing stuff that it's just discoloring. It's like because it didn't know. It's confused, it seems.
Well, I want to add one more very salient point, and that is this. I challenge again everybody, and I went and did this 2 months ago. I went and grabbed an astronomy book that was published in 1972, and then I compared it to the supermoon that we had a month and a half ago, because I wanted to see if those pictures of a full moon matched up with what I was looking at in this book that was published in 1972, because I sure ain't going to go to NSA-run and controlled Google to look at this information, because that information is going to be wiped. That information is going to be obfuscated or changed. Anyway, my point is simply this. When I compared those pictures to the supermoon, there was at least a discernible difference of about 10 degrees difference in its tilt. That's my point.
And I was going to ask you, is there a way, and I'm sure there is, it's hard for me to think of it right now, but a way to compare, like you said, comparing stuff. Can we compare where, how things were this day last year and see where the stars were and where they're supposed to be, and then compare it to now and actually notice that tilt? Is there a way we can?
Yeah, I think you can go to Stellarium and do this. I think there's a way of doing it on Stellarium. I'm not a big Stellarium fan, but again, at the end of this show, I will go through the YouTube list of all these channels that I would strongly recommend, with the word strongly in quotations, for your listeners to look at and analyze. And I think in one of the channels, if I recall correctly, there is some Stellarium data in there addressing that very fact.
All right. Well, listen, let's take a break here. We've got one coming up. So let's take that break, and then we'll come back and talk some more. Folks, I'll take your calls. Some of you are trying to call in now. I take the calls after this next break if you've got questions. You can also give your questions in the chat room to our moderators on YouTube, or directly private message me over here on latenightinthe You'll see the website link is right at the bottom of my YouTube screen. So it's right there for you. And you can get your questions to me that way as well. My guest is Wolfgang Koenig.
Well, it's great to be part of the show. Hi, Wolfgang. I'm Kevin here in New York City. And I got to tell you, you're definitely onto something with a shift that has happened. Let me give you a prime example. Where I live, the sun, and I've been here a couple of years, I have a solar panel outside my window, and the sun's position, always in the winter, is low enough that the sun shines into my room, it hits my panel, but also comes in the room. And the reason why I like that is because my dog likes to sit in the window. The sun this year doesn't even hit the bottom part of my solar panel, okay? My building hasn't changed. It's a 110-year-old brownstone, okay? And the other thing, the trees. I have these really old trees in my backyard. The one's got to be 100 and something feet tall. Believe it or not, we do have trees in Brooklyn. And the leaves, this spring, the leaves came in, and then for some unknown reason, it was the most bizarre thing, the leaves fell off the tree. Not all of them, but half of the leaves on this specific tree. And my neighbor and I were like, what the heck is going on? Like, we literally had to rake our backyard in the spring. And this also happened.
If I may interject, sir, part of the issue also is the very, very extensive amount of CIA operated with over 85 aircraft spread out around the country, all from my information, 747-400 series aircraft, all parked at mostly U.S. Air Force bases. The prime example on the West Coast here is Edwards Air Force Base, where like clockwork you can see them coming out and spraying. My point simply being is that this is also a mitigating factor or an additional attributor to what you're seeing. Case in point, where I live, you should see never, ever, okay, the humidity. Again, I look at my phone app to check this. Greater than, in the wintertime, at the 38th parallel, greater than about 25 to 30%, period. That's it.
Right.
Every time they geoengineer, the humidity is 100% for days and days and days on end. So what I'm getting at is if they're geoengineering in your particular area, that's raising the humidity artificially up to 80, 90, 100%. Remember, The only place you should be seeing 90%, 100% humidity are in your subtropical or tropical zones. I know this. I'm a dual citizen of a tropical third world country in the southern hemisphere. What the hell is that all about? So anyway, continue, please.
And the other thing, it's funny you point that out, because this morning I had to get up early. And today, actually yesterday, we had a 60-something degree day here, okay, middle of January, all right? New York is normally bone chilling in January.
86 here. I'm in South Carolina. Someone might say it's normal, but no, not here, not this time of the year.
So now today was a little bit cooler, but it's bizarre. And, you know, everybody talks about chemtrails, and I'm always looking, and, you know, we really don't see much of it here. And the craziest thing, I got up early in the morning, and I went to get my oil change in my vehicle, and I looked up at the sky because the sun was shining, and all of a sudden I noticed all of these trails, and then I literally see a jet creating trails, and they're all in the position of where the sun is, because from what I understand, you can see some anomalies in the morning and the late night, from what I understand. Now, here in, you know, up in the Northeast, it's a little more difficult. But this was so bizarre because it literally was like, it freaked me out, because all of a sudden I'm literally seeing right in front of me planes really high in the sky creating these trails. And I'm like, and you couldn't see the sun really. It was kind of blocked out, but only where the sun was.
Let me answer your question there. Three things. Number one, the only time you're going to see a contrail, which is superheated exhaust gas creating ice crystals for 2 to 5 miles behind, which will break down because of the sun's UV light within 5 to 10 minutes, is when you have conditions of humidity greater than 60% and a relative temperature less than 38 degrees Celsius. 38 degrees Celsius, you're talking about an altitude of greater than 30,000 feet with a standard adiabatic lapse rate based on 70 degrees at sea level, 2.5 degrees, meaning every 1,000 feet you go up, the temperature drops an additional 2.5 degrees. So you hit the freezing level nominally based on 70 degrees at the surface at around somewhere between 12.5 to 14,000 feet. So you've got to be double that to get into these superheated or heated ice crystals to create the quote-unquote contrails. This has been a stated goal. My second point real quickly is the U.S. Air Force stated in 2007, we're going to, quote-unquote, own the weather by 2025. Well, let me tell you, they already own the weather. And they're using, as we all know, you can go to geoengineeringwatch.org. He's not a pilot, but he breaks down the chemicals through mass spectrometer testing. We have off-the-chart, for example, nanoparticulate aluminum in the air, and they're using these chemicals as binders. They're also using barium titanate. Barium titanate is an electropiezoid. It's BA, I think it's number 52 on the periodic table. And barium titanate in particular is what you're breathing in, and I think they're using that as a nanobot in your body to this is a whole other topic for another day. But the bottom line is they're using a whole spectrum of nefarious chemicals, and you know this because who's funding this? And why are they just covering up the sun and obfuscating the sun now? Exactly what we're talking about tonight, because they're attempting on a daily basis now, everywhere in Europe and here. Mind you, when you go to Russia, they don't have geoengineering in Russia, okay? So places like Russia, you're going to be able to see this object. But where you are, where I am, they're doing everything they can to obfuscate this, including what we discussed previously with this sun filter, sun generator object, where I believe they have at least 2 of these in geosynchronous orbit. Sorry, continue, please.
No, and it's so bizarre because I'm somebody who's constantly, you know, I've been following a lot of the research with Niburu, and I'm also a Christian, so I have my own 2 sets of belief system about what's going on. I fully believe that there is definitely something upon us, and I actually feel for people that don't pick up on the changes, because if you don't, I'm 50 years old, and I've lived here my whole life, and there is definitely something afoot. Something is not.
Well, then, sir, you know. You remember, you are over 40. You remember when you were a kid, just like me, we're about the same age. I'm a little older than you. You remember when you glanced up at the sun, it was kind of a yellowy ball. Why is it so iridescent white now? Because what we just described. Continue, please.
Right. And the other thing is, now I can literally see out my window the planes coming in when they're landing at night. I see their headlights landing at JFK. So I see airplane all the time. I never see any type of trails coming off of these. You know, once in a while you'll see a little pollution, a little smoke, but just seeing these jet, and these things were high up, like the planes were pretty low, and these are, 747. These military planes were so high up, and I just sat there. It took a while for the guy to work on my vehicle, so I'm just standing there watching it. I literally was tempted to videotape it, and then, just post
what you have is a series of mostly U.S. Air Force satellites operated by both the Department of Energy, the U.S. Navy, and the U.S. Air Force in a joint effort. And these are all geosynchronous. Last count that I came up with a few years back was 41 in geosynchronous orbit, completely covering the planet. And what you have, I believe this Department of Energy that we're referencing, where they run this operation, is in Nebraska, specifically in Omaha, Nebraska, if I recall correctly. And what they're doing, you have your high-paid dweeby, quote-unquote, peer-reviewed meteorologists in there who are sellouts. These are people that are getting paid a lot of money to look at a screen all day long, to take the raw data, and they're the ones communicating the coordinates, the Latin longitude, to these various aircraft and saying, hey, you need to fly 5 degrees right. And who's also got skin in the game on this is AARC. Your places like Oakland Center, Denver Center, Chicago Center. These are the places where you have air traffic controllers that handle traffic above 35,000 feet. The service ceiling of a 747-400 is 45,000 feet. So they're going right at the very top. They're basically operating between, in my estimation, just in that range of 40 to 45,000 feet. And you can tell they're dropping this crap. I can when I see them flying out of Edwards Air Force Base daily, like clockwork at 6 o'clock in the morning, and you see this big plume of garbage coming out. But again, sir, and I respect your opinion, because the bottom line is, 8 out of 10, 4 out of 5 people that are around you are in cognitive dissonance. They're in Stockholm Syndrome. Poor people, God bless them. And this is why they look at, I talked to my child who isn't even a teenager yet. God forbid, he thinks this is normal. He doesn't know what a real cloud looks like. It's very sad.
That's right. And I'll say this, I'm 45, and the sky looks nothing like it did growing up. I remember, we didn't have chemtrails all through the skies, and
deep blue sky. Now we have a milky white grayish sky from all of the nanoized aluminum, according to Geoengineering Watch, that's been built up in the lower atmosphere below 50,000 feet for the past 3 decades, really.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you, do you think that when they do this type of spraying, is this to stop us from possibly seeing something maybe in space?
Of course. This is the impetus of our conversation. There's 3 things that they're doing. First, they're brainwashing everybody, and they're just like 9/11 inside job, just like Sandy hoax, just like the Boston fake bombing. You have these people that say, what are you talking about? That's real because I heard about it on Fox News. It must be real. So you still have a contingency of sheeple who are listening to this garbage, the real fake news. Fortunately, God bless, you have radio shows like this where you have people going to the independent news sources now more than ever to get the real news, and we have an incarnational change, not only where I see more sheeple becoming people and waking up, if you will, but also because of being in this information age. I think this is something that slipped between the cracks for the controllers of this planet. And so we do have our little first mini-generation fake oracle in front of us called a cell phone, where you can simply push a button and get pretty accurate data if you know what you're looking for. So what you're saying is very true. Continue, please.
Yeah, no, I just think it's, I think that they've been aware of this for a while, so they've had plenty of time to essentially, as we say the term geoengineer, they've geoengineered the social media mindset and the whole thing with technology. Yeah,
and you have to remember this. They've been using lithium. There was a black guy, I saw this video years ago, who took a water sample at a fountain in front of the swearing in of the Obama, the Manchurian candidate gay man married to a tranny, back in 2008, of Michael Jamal Robinson with a package. And my point is who played linebacker for University of Oregon in 1988, by the way. But my point is that he saw this geoengineering going on, and he was a very perceptive black gentleman, and he noticed that everybody was around was in a euphoric state, but a little too euphoric. And he thought, wow, this is really weird. I'm going to take a sample of this water. He took that and got it mass spectrometer tested back in 2008, and they found high levels of lithium in it. Lithium, which makes everybody happy. So, yes, they're dropping psychotropic drugs on you, sodium fluoride, lithium as the short list. They're also dropping, I was a victim of this back in 2012, and this same disease killed about 1,200 people in East Texas, and this was a pneumonia where I had no head congestion. I was very sick, couldn't move for 6 days, was barely able to breathe for that time frame. Finally went to the emergency room on the 6th day, went to this doctor who was a former Gulf War female medical doctor, and she throws up my the lung X-ray of my lung. She goes, "Oh, this is interesting." And I'm like, "What?" I'm breathing, in a very rapid rate. She goes, "Well, pneumonia is little round, dark gray, donut-shaped things in your lungs." Again, I'm not a medical doctor. What you have are white, and they're almost octagonal shape, and it looks like it was almost man-made. And then she pulled down the X-ray. I never got a copy of it, and I thought, wow, that was weird. It didn't sink in at the time, but I realize now, in retrospect, that yes, this is a slow kill. These planes are being operated by the most corrupt portion of the CIA. Case in point, your NGO, formerly called Evergreen International Airlines, which was operated out of McMinnville, Oregon, in Central Oregon, where they operated 5 747-200 series airplanes up until 2008, and conveniently they declared bankruptcy. The reason that they did this is because too many people like you and I were going out and filming them, and you can look up the patent. They had 3,000 PSI, 5,000 gallon, 4 in a row, large vats that they would pour these chemicals in, and finally they shut their operation down. That's why it's all gone black. It's all gone to U.S. Air Force bases, so you can't get access. And that's why you have CIA pilots flying this, because when I applied to the CIA back in the early 80s, after I graduated with my undergraduate degree, at that time they had 700 pilots. My guesstimation is now they probably have something like 3,000 pilots, because 2/3 of them are flying these 747-400 airplanes, which I have 1,000 hours in, by the way, and a type rating as a captain. So I'm very familiar with the aircraft.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I just find it all. Now, I'm just a regular guy. But I kind of grew up around hippies, and I grew up around people that were very close to the earth and very in touch with the environment. And being attuned to that, I'm very sensitive to these changes. And I noticed that's what they've done to these people now, especially young people, is they've desensitized them to nature and everything. Right, and so now all they know is digital, and all they know is devices, they
if I may interject one more point, if you follow Alfred Lambermont Weber, he's a very forward-thinking guy. He's written 12 books. He's a Canadian citizen, went to Yale, earned his law degree. He interviews a woman named Lorraine Moret about 3 years ago. You can look this up on YouTube, Alfred Lambermont Weber. And they talk about the 5th generation and above flat wave antennas and all of these Samsung and Apple phones. And what they do specifically now is put out a resonance frequency within a 2-foot radius to make you angry. Okay? Yeah. And they beta tested this same microwave pulsing technology. And really, it was during the Jonestown riots that happened the same year as the LA riots in 1992. And apparently, they turned up these cell phone towers to 750,000 watts.
Well,
and they pulsed out microwave beams that made people go crazy. So my point is that they're doing this on a subterfuge level with a handheld device now, zombifying the children who are holding these devices close to their bodies.
Well, I could tell you this, too, as far as Alfred Weber goes. I've had him on several times, and his belief is that Planet X is a total psyop. That's what he told me. So,
well, I have to take disagreement with him, because you know what?
Well, yeah, I disagree with him on many things, but yeah.
The photographic evidence at Niburu News. Let me say one more thing. There's a gentleman named Steve Olson who's now missing. No one knows where he is. Some people suspect he might be dead. And my point is simply...
Well, he is missing. He was scheduled to be on my show, and it never happened. So yeah, he is missing.
Yeah, he is missing as we speak right now, and has been missing for a week. And people have been trying to get in touch with this guy, and nobody knows where he is. Continue, please. Sorry.
Yeah, I've been following Steve and Wayne for a while, and I noticed that. I was wondering just recently. I said, wow, he hasn't posted anything in a while. I wonder what's going on with him.
It's very convenient to take out one person who lives by themselves, and it wouldn't surprise me in the least. As a parallel, there was that gentleman, if you guys recall. He was a former United Airlines pilot. And it was, probably 5 years ago. He was up about 100 clicks from where I live, and he was writing his 3rd book on 9/11 Inside Job. And what he was doing is naming names specifically. He was listing the specific serial numbers of Flight 77, because those airplanes were never crashed into the ground, as we know. And those aircraft are still flying, one with American, one with United. And he went to an A&P mechanic and put this in his book. They went to that guy's house. They killed him. They killed his dog, and they killed his 2 children about 5 years ago. So this is how these people roll. I'm not surprised.
Oh, I know about that. And as somebody who lived 10 blocks northeast of the World Trade Center on 9/11 and lost 2 close friends I have to say that, there's, and I just recently, a friend of mine came up and he asked me, he said, listen, I have an extra ticket. Do you want to go to the World Trade Center Museum? And I hadn't been since, and I said, you know what? Yes, let me go check it out. Oh my God. I've never in my life seen such a propaganda museum. Oh my God. It was like, to me, it was distasteful in the propaganda. Like, you literally walk through the museum and it's like a timeline as you walk through it from beginning to end. But the way they've done it and set it up, it has nothing to do really with the terrorists. It has nothing to do with what happened. It's just like all of this stuff to make you feel emotionally connected to these innocent victims that were basically mass murdered on that day. And my best friend worked at Cantor Fitzgerald, and my other friend was a firefighter. So, anybody who was in New York that day knows for a fact, especially when, Building 7 went down a couple hours later, we were all just like, are you fucking kidding me?
Well, all right.
Yeah, and the sad part is that now you have children, the snowflake moron-ennials. Oh, I'm sorry, millennials, not moron-ennials, sorry, who are now going into 9th grade, who were born the year after 9/11, and they're going to get this official conscripted, socially engineered fake story from the public school system, cramming it down their throats, saying, "Oh, it was a guy in a cave with a sat phone."
Yeah, I know. And for the record, folks, if you call in, I appreciate your calls, but we gotta lay back on the F-bombs. No F-bombs. I've got AM and FMs that pick me up, and if you F-bomb, I've got to get rid of you. So, but thank you for the call. It was a great call. I mean, if we were sitting back and having a beer, go F-bomb all you want, but on the air, I can't have it. So sorry about that, but yeah, he made some really interesting points, and I've had somebody years ago who was trying to convince me the chemtrails were to hide an object in space, and I used to tell him, no, that's crazy. There's more to it than that. But maybe it probably is one of the purposes. Now I've got some questions here in the chat room. Let's see. Okay, Robin asks, if other pilots noticed the change in the skies, have other pilots noticed the changes in the skies?
Some of my colleagues that I work directly with, let's put it this way. As my friend stated, I'll draw an analogy from 25 years ago. He said, Wolfgang, you are in a career field that's more conservative, quote unquote, than the financial or banking industry. So keep in mind, this is sort of the mindset that I'm dealing with. And I tell you, when I go to work, I'm the only one there as, if you will, a researcher per se, because I'd have to say that 99% of the pilots that I'm with are drinking the Kool-Aid, and they don't want to believe it.
Well, yeah, I could see that. But what do they think if they're up there and they see, and they see it? I mean, they convince themselves it's something else, huh?
I've had conversations past tense in my previous job role, flying a previous airplane on the East Coast, where I would point out exactly what you're stating. I'd say, hey, look at that really iridescent iron oxide sunrise. And then as we're coming back, look at the sunset. Don't you think that's odd? Oh, no, they just have fires up in Canada. That's what causes it.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
All right. Chris asked, Hello. Tell you what, let me hang up with you and call you back. Oh boy, it's going to be one of those nights, folks. This time it's not the Skype thing going wacko. So let's get him back on here.
This person cannot be reached at the moment.
Yeah, well,
Please leave a message after the tone. After you leave a message, you can modify it by pressing pound.
I can't even shut that lady up. I'll be down. There we go. All right. I got to call him. He can't call me because I have to have control of this call. So let's try it again. He was trying to call me back.
This person cannot be...
Oh, damn it. Let's try it again. He keeps trying to call me back. If you're listening there, Wolfgang, don't call me. I will call you. That's how I got to do it here. There he is. I think we've got him back.
Please leave
No?
a message after.
This is not looking good, folks. He's calling me again. I know. I've got to call you. I might as well wait a minute and then try to bring him on. We're gonna play phone footsie here for a minute, folks. So hang in there. Oh dear. Let me just get rid of that and start over. All right, let's try again.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Come on.
You're not hearing me.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. So the fun begins. I don't know where I was cut off, but I'm not surprised.
Well, it was interesting. Yeah, but I could hear you. You couldn't hear me. Got cut off right about where I was answering you, and you had mentioned why.
Your message has reached the maximum duration allowed. To re-record, press 1.
I'm sorry,
To
say
listen
again. You're breaking up.
Press 2.
Yeah.
To cancel your message,
What the
press 4.
hell
To
is
confirm,
that?
press pound.
I don't know what that is.
To re-record, press 1.
I can hear you loud
to listen
and clear,
again,
Michael.
Press 2. To cancel your message, press 4. To confirm,
Go ahead.
press pound.
Yeah, hold on. I'm trying to get rid of this
Your
nutcase
message
lady
has
who
reached the
won't go
maximum
away.
duration allowed. To re-record,
Okay, no
press
problem.
1. Press 1. To listen again,
Oh.
press 2. To cancel your message, press 4.
Where
to confirm,
the
press
freak
pound.
is that coming
Pound.
from? Folks, you hearing this? I mean, are you kidding me? Come on. I mean, get real. In the nah, she's still talking, and I don't see her. She's not here on my board. You got to be kidding me.
To re-record, press 1. To listen again, press 2. To cancel your message,
Holy
press 4.
shit.
To confirm, press
So will she just give up at some point or what? She done? You done? AI? You finished there? All right. Maybe we could get on with the show. You know, it's bad enough it's hot here tonight. And then I've got to deal with AI interrupting my show. Oh, I know. Believe me, I know whose end it's from. It's just, I couldn't. He's not on here with me, though. I had to hang up with him, and she was still going. I don't know where she came from, but let's try this again. Holy smokes.
Okay, I'm back. Hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I'm so sorry about that.
No, it's...
I will. Go ahead.
I was going to say, no, it's okay. I think what happened was I was trying to call you back, and for some reason it went to your voicemail, and it wouldn't leave. And it wasn't showing on my screen, so I couldn't stop it. So she just... Anyways, we're good, and I totally understand why you keep your name under wraps, because it could affect your job. So thank you for being here.
Yes. And one other data point, if I may, I'll interject this.
Sure.
Is that I'll just say it. More so a few years ago, but I've had my computer hacked not once but 5 times. My mailbox has been blue dotted. If anybody knows what that is, related to FEMA camps, blue dot, yellow dot, red dot. So I've kept a very low profile for several years regarding this subject matter because now, again, to repeat myself, it is more open source. I don't feel so critical about not talking about it in the public domain, but certainly I wouldn't be surprised if there is a 3-letter agency messing with us. That's all I can tell you.
I won't argue with that. I mean, that was really strange. I mean, there was nothing for me. There was no way for me to hang up on that AI bot lady. I mean, she just kept going. Boy, she didn't want to leave. She wanted to be a part of the show tonight.
Well, anyway, I'll cut to the quick and I'll continue with this information.
Okay.
In about 2004, very specifically, I went to the UFO Congress in Tucson, Arizona, whereupon I attended a symposium with a woman named Miriam Delicato, who wrote a book called Alien Blue Star Prophecy, Red Kachina, Blue Kachina. Now, this book that she wrote, and she claimed, past tense, that from 1988 until 1992, she was brought aboard a Draco reptilian craft, shown a holographic flat screen TV 6 times over that time frame when she was taken aboard the craft. She wasn't abducted. She went willingly. She's essentially a housekeeper from BC, Canada, and she was directed by these beings to write this book. And she was told by them telepathically, you need to write this book. You need to get the word out about what's coming. And it really is basically about the Nibiru exoplanet system that we're discussing tonight. And further, what I found very interesting was after I met her at this UFO symposium, we had sort of a ongoing telephone conversation for about half a year. But then that's when things got very weird for me. My phone was getting tapped because what I had in common with her, and I had some other things that I don't want to discuss happen to me, where I had aircraft fly over our house, hit us with ground-penetrating radar, which consequently gave my dog permanent epilepsy, things like that. Not good things. But my point is, with all of this, is that, I had some data, much like William Tompkins, much like John Titor, that I shared with her, saying, hey, that's really interesting, because I've been told about the Draco reptilians and how they work directly with us, and they do a technology transfer, and they've given us craft to fly. A good example of this is they throw it right in your face. The craft look like exactly what you see in the last Star Wars movie. Not this one. I haven't seen the last movie, but it's a triangle craft. Looks like an extended version of the TR-3B, the Lockheed Martin device. But this is really, and again, Randy Kramer describes these same craft. So as verification, that was verification for me. Although I kind of separated from her after about a year and a half, because things for me back in 2005 and subsequent were becoming a little dicey and a little strange. Again, with the telephone and some other weird things that were going on. So I basically separated myself. Now, as we speak, she has been working with the Hopi Indians up in the Four Corners area, because supposedly the Four Corners area is one of many designated safe zones, quote unquote, that she writes about in her book. And